My name is Justin Brennan Beers, and I'll be speaking about the difficulty of accurately assessing weight issues and their results on our culture. These are not gender or age specific, so men and women, young and old, can all be affected alike. The reason I chose this subject is because myself, I have a fast metabolism and a large body frame, but I've always been lighter or smaller than peers of the same size. So when changing my diet for the better, I was surprised to notice that I am now closer to the overweight side of the BMI scale, and I wanted to figure out why that is. Before I start, I wanted to ask, what do you guys think determine body health? What factors are considered when assessing body health? Obesity is a disease that is widespread over the world, and most notably in the United States, where 66% of the adult population is in fact overweight, and half of that number is obese. This sends a bad message towards our younger generation about where we're headed in regards of food and health choices in the world. This mental and physical disease is life-altering and can send someone into a downward spiral, but thankfully it is curable in most cases. But the causes for obesity mainly are poor diet, which include high carb, high fat, or high calories, very high preservative or nutrient less food that comes in packages or fast food. The second one that we cannot change is genetics. This is something that our parents passed down to us at birth and we cannot do anything about. But the last one, stress management, is completely reliant upon the individual. If one can manage their stresses of their day properly, this is good, but if done in an unfavorable manner, this can be bad and lead to an increased lack of positive feedback from social peers and increased chance of introvertism. The infamous BMI calculator, invented by Adolf Quetelet in the 1850s. This is used by taking your weight in kilograms and dividing it by your height in meters and doing it again. My weight in kilograms is 80, divided by my height in meters is 1.8, and again by 1.8 gives us 24.69, which is very, very close to the overweight line, and this is because it does not account for muscle or fat mass, and this is very, very bad for bodybuilders trying to have very, very high muscle density. This BMI calculator is not for them. This can easily misclassify someone as overweight or underweight when they clearly are not. Body frame is something that is very, very important when it comes to classifying an individual. This can be determined whether you're an ectomorph of a lanky and less muscular build, towards mesomorph, which is regular, and endomorph, which is a more muscular, stocky build. This is probably the most important factor when it comes to assessing someone's health, because it determines how you assess someone's health. The way you can determine your body frame size is by wrapping your middle finger around your wrist with your thumb, and if your fingers touch, you have a small frame, and the farther your fingers are apart, the larger your frame. And depending on what category you fall into, your BMI can fall accordingly. These are different body sizes portrayed by healthy models in catalogs nowadays, from ranges between ages 27 and 48. The sizes range between 8 and 16. These are healthy depictions of models, whereas most models nowadays that are seen are very unrealistic and unhealthy, that show signs of malnutrition. Eating disorders. Obesity is considered an eating disorder. 15% of teens are considered obese, with a rough 30% being overweight. This is larger than it has been ever before. Anorexia, 1% of women between the ages of 10 and 20 starve themselves, and sometimes potentially even to death. This is also culminated by the photos of unrealistic bodies on catalogs for women. And bulimia, which is constant binge eating in all at once in one day, and then self-induced vomiting of that entire meal right afterwards. This helps portray the image of anorexia and is usually done in secrecy. The risks that are presented that the Center of Disease Control and Prevention list are reduced mobility, so anything from getting up to daily activities such as walking can become more difficult, and with that more painful. More stress is put on all the joints and muscles when there's a lack of exercise. Mortality, you just have a higher rate of death being obese every day. Simply put, you have a higher risk of having high blood pressure, of dyslipidemia, which is a higher concentration of triglycerides in the body, diabetes, stroke, some cancers including colon cancer, coronary heart disease, and others. For those trying to lose weight, undercutting calories is not the answer. When dieting, try to replace packaged foods and unhealthy fats and sugars with healthy carbs, fats, and sugars, which include legumes, vegetables, fruits, and whole grains, and milk. For people, you can include more iron and fiber into the diet, and more caffeine will also help increase the metabolism rate. Exercise is the most useful thing, with only 10 or 15 minutes of daily strenuous activity can greatly lead to the improvement of someone's overall health. For someone with a higher metabolic rate and trying to gain weight, simply adding healthy fats and proteins and calories such as nuts, milk, and soy can help add weight. Also, exercising harder for a shorter amount of time can put just as much muscle growth as longer postponed exercise. At this point, you finally realize that there are probably a lot more factors that come into determining someone's body composition instead of just their BMI. Notable factors that include something like your waist circumference added to your BMI, your body frame, your height and weight, and your heart rate. Your resting heart rate can even tell you your athletic potential, and your body fat percentage is also greatly important, with athletes, men, going from a roughly 6 to 13% body fat, and the average rate being around 18 to 24%, whereas women athletes are more in their teens in the percentage and closer to 30% average. Questions that I have in relation to the things that were brought up during the presentation. What is the ratio of the obese and overweight Americans to the normal weight ones? Who invented the BMI scale? And how would you characterize an endomorph? If you answered a ratio of 1 to 1 to 1, which is 1/3 being obese, 1/3 being overweight, and 1/3 being of normal weight, then you're correct. Adolf Quetelet is the man who invented the BMI calculator, and an endomorph would be characterized as someone who gains weight easy. these are my references to my presentation.